Hiya, friends. Prepared Suburbanite back at you. You know, I've heard it said that slow and steady wins the race. And it's kind of like a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And when you apply that to being prepared and going through all the steps of preparedness, slow and steady does win the race. I've got some thoughts and maybe some pretty timely advice that I'd like to share. So stick around. My wife and I started our journey into preparedness probably 10 or 12 years ago, somewhere in there. And I guess I learned that my wife has really been a prepper all her life. She was the one that would find the deals on day-old bread at our hometown supermarket and stock up on that, fill the freezer full, and we always had bread. So it's those kinds of things that from her upbringing, growing up in a rural community on a farm out in the middle of Lord knows where they relied on their chickens and their cattle to provide them with eggs and milk and all that kind of stuff. She learned how to become prepared and to be ready for anything that would come up by taking advantage of the small steps that it takes to get to the end destination. When we started 10 or 12 years ago on our journey to be prepared, I learned a lot from her lessons. And as we started, I had quite a lot of things to learn myself about being prepared. And one of the things, I guess the talents that skills that I had was I'm a trained accountant, and I know how to keep a set of books. I know how the difference between debits and credits and how to make a budget and do all that kind of stuff. I've been in the accounting field pretty much my entire career, and that came in very handy so that I could understand our finances, our income, our expenses, build the budget so that we could make sure that we were going to achieve the goals that we set for ourselves. And one of those goals was to be prepared for emergencies. And as we started out those first few small steps on our journey of 1,000 miles, I just wanted to make sure that we had enough food, provisions, stuff that we needed to get us through a big snowstorm where the power was out for a week or 10 days. And to have backup devices for preparing and cooking food, to have a source of water that we could use for drinking and for food prep and all that. And so that was our first steps into preparedness. And as time went by, we invested a little bit more in from our budget into our preparedness kind of stuff, and we expanded our goals so that it went beyond just a week or 10 days of being able to have some food and water and alternate cooking sources in our preps. And we expanded it beyond that to say, okay, now we need to make sure that we've got at least a month. So we'd stock up on canned goods, food that we enjoyed eating. And I enjoy spaghetti and pasta salads and all that kind of stuff. So we bought canned tomatoes, canned diced tomatoes, canned whole tomatoes, and put them up, used them as we needed them, but we just kept adding to our stockpile of the things that we normally would eat. We just kept expanding it. So we'd add vegetables like corn and peas and green beans, the canned stuff that we'd get from the local grocery store. And then as I learned a lot more about prepping and spent some time on a lot of different prepper channels, and based on my experience in finance, I know that buying wholesale or buying in bulk, you usually got a much better deal on a per unit basis than what you could normally get at your local supermarket. So we joined, I think first, Sam's Club here in Wake County, and then we joined BJ's Wholesale, which is pretty much a direct competitor to Costco, but we did join Costco for a short period of time. Very inconvenient for us to get to the local Costco, so but very convenient for us to get to the local BJ's Wholesale Club, and it works out just fine. So whatever's in your neighborhood, wherever it's convenient for you, there's a lot of good options there. And what I found is you can buy bulk packaging of things that you're going to need. Toilet paper, paper towels, paper plates, case lots of fruits and vegetables, canned kind of stuff, and canned meats and things like that. So as time went by, we began spending quite a few bucks from our budget, within a budget, to reach certain goals. And we got to our 2-month and then our 3-month goals, and then we expanded it to a 6-month. Yep, if we could never get out of the house, we'd be able to survive for at least 6 months. Just the two of us here, that's all we needed. And realized that, yeah, I'm also still responsible for the rest of my family. I've got a sister that lives close by who's 10 years older than me, and got kids that live close by, not super close, but within 20 miles or so, and got grandkids, all that. So I figured, yep, I'm going to need to be prepping just in case something bad really does happen, and we have an economic calamity, we have a pandemic, who would have thought? So we expanded our prepping goals to include not just the two of us, but enough to be able to get through a short period of time if the family had to depend on us, and that's what we did. We also taught my kids to get involved in preparation and preparedness themselves, and they're doing just that, which is a really great thing. Takes a bit of the worry off me. And as things seem to be getting worse over the last year and a half or 2 years or so, we had to make a conscious decision to expand our preps even more. And I wanted to make sure that I had at least 18 months of food preps for my wife and me here at the homestead, plus a little bit of extra to make sure that if one of my kids or my grandkids, whatever, needed to have something, they got burned out of their house or whatever, we've got enough to be able to share with them. And I think as you go back, that single step for a journey of 1,000 miles, slow and steady wins the race. It took us a long time to get there. If you're just getting started in preparedness, if you've been looking around, watching the news, getting involved with some of the prepper channels that are out there, and honestly, I haven't found one that really does a really poor job. There's a couple here and there that do an awful lot of doomsday kind of news reporting and stuff like that, and I try to stay away from that kind of an approach to prepping. I look at it as more of an insurance policy, hoping I never ever have to use it, but if I do, it's there, and it gives me a sense of calm, a sense of peace, and I don't need to worry or panic if the toilet paper gets down to a half a roll and I've got to run out. Well, there's a shortage like there was a couple of years ago when the health crisis hit us then, and I can remember staring at the supermarket shelves where they had their paper goods, all that, and just found there was no paper towels, there was no toilet paper, and that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. We were already prepared with that, so I didn't have to worry, I didn't have to panic, and a sense of calm kind of overtook us. But slow and steady does really win the race. I'm glad we started when we started, because the price of individual items that we purchased back then that we've still got in stock now, much, much lower than they are right now. So the replacement cost is much higher now when we do use stuff out of our preps to make it through a day or two. So, but I'm glad I started when I did start. A lesson I think also to be learned is you've got to be frugal and budget your money. One of the original financial goals that we had was to be debt-free as soon as we could possibly be debt-free. We had car payments, we had a mortgage, pretty much a little bit of installment debt here and there. And I remember talking to my son-in-law right after we bought the house here, and that was almost 20 years ago. I told him what the plan was to be debt-free, and that we could take that mortgage and over a 10-year period of time pay it down so that we could pay off the mortgage and pay off the car debts, things like that. We had 2 cars at the time. When we retired, we trimmed it down to 1. And when the 10-year threshold on that goal broke, we didn't have any mortgage, we didn't have any car payments, and we were actually saving money to pay cash for our next and newest vehicle. So it really did work out, but I can remember his reaction, and he said, "Sweet." And his eyes lit up, and he said, "Wow, you can really do stuff like that?" I said, "Yeah, you can. You got to take it one step at a time and make sure that you can afford it. Get your budget in order, work hard, do the overtime when you can, get a side gig, do a second job here or there." And that's what he did, and it seemed to work out for him over time. So the lesson, I think, is to be able to combine your enthusiasm and your goals and your financial picture and get them all lined up so that you're all pointed in the same direction. Prepping is a journey of 1,000 miles. In fact, every time you look at your long-term goals, it may be 1,200 miles, it may be 1,500 miles, it may be 2,000 miles, but you're only going to get there if you take that first step. Hey, this is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.